Millions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it's there. Like a splinter, driving you mad, driving you mad. Bring the ship up to broadcast depth. We're going in. Taking Neo to see her. See who? The Oracle.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Like the book it's got. I went ahead and turned on recording because we're talking about cool shit already. But that's one of the things that was real difficult for a lot of the first folks that I started working with on the material, who kind of like did the training program, is the book is so dense. Like, and there's a lot more. Uh, I feel like there's better stories in the book that are more illustrative to me, and he gets way deeper into the science, which I nerd out on. But it's a lot to get through, and man, you really lucked out when you found that.
Yeah,
What was his name? Davis?
I pretty much live my life like that. You know, when I'm driving, I'm in the back seat. I'm watching what I'm doing. I live my life like I'm in the back of a theater watching everything. I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at myself from behind. I do that almost daily. So it gives me an opportunity to see everything around me.
So wait, let me back up. So like, as you were going through, like, watching the videos, we're talking about Stephen Davis's holographic
Right.
universe workshop,
Right.
which is like the first part of our learning material. As you started going through those videos, like, when did it start? I call it breaking your brain. When did it start? When did you have like your first kind of brain breaking moment? And Reese, I know you had one.
For me, it was the third. I think it was the third video. I think it was, if I remember correctly. It was 10 years ago. So,
for me, I think it was after the second video, because I had broken it up to where I'd watched one of the holographic workshop and then did like the movie that I suggested to watch afterwards. I did those in like 1 day chunks, so I didn't like get too overloaded. And it was like, I swear it was at the end of the second one, which I think the movie that they suggested was I can't remember what it was called. 13th Floor or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's such a good movie.
Dude, like, I swear I was like, oh my gosh. And I feel like I called you, James, and was like, I was having my crazy, I want to go stand on the corner with a sign being like, oh my God, why does no one know the thing? And like, yeah, I resisted the urge to be the crazy person on the corner. But yeah, no, it definitely was like flipping my goggles backwards for a minute. It was really rough.
I think the beginning of that workshop where you see the couple having a picnic, and then they pan out, and they pan way
out. Yeah.
Way up. I think that was when I went back and watched it a second time. I didn't get all the way through the second time, but watched the second time. That was a big moment the second time I saw that, because that is when I realized I can sit way back here, way up here, or way back here, and watch way down there, as if I'm there. I mean, I'm watching myself from basically different universe. I mean, you know, if I get that far away, when I get that technical, and that's how I do it now. I was like, I before, I'm in a theater, when I drive, I'm in a theater. And I think that helped me when Lori taught me how to do my remote viewing. I think that the holographic universe workshop helped me with remote viewing, because when I go in now, I sit back instead of going in. I don't. I used to.
Right.
I was really reckless. I used to just go in and get my ass kicked. Now I go
I mean,
in,
let's
and
be honest, Bill, you're still reckless.
I'm very reckless still. I am still very reckless. But now I go in and I stand way in the back, and I take a really good look at everything around me as if I'm in a theater. And I look at, and the first place I always go is that's my first stop is their attic. But that's the first thing I do is I sit all the way back, just like I'm watching that couple on doing it. I sit all the way back, and I'm watching what's on everywhere around me rather than step right into the middle of it. I think that helped me a lot with the remote viewing. So if I described it right.
I was just thinking, I was looking at the reading list and updating it with a bunch of new stuff that like I realized was really influential on me. And I feel like there's a couple of pieces in the curriculum that like I studied that were really influential that like I never like threw on y'all's radar. There's this it's literally a clinical hypnosis workshop. It's like 40 hours worth of video training where they teach you how to be a hypnotist, like from a clinical perspective, to work with people. In the state of Florida, that qualifies you as being a state of Floridian clinical therapist. But the material is really good. And like one of the things I learned that I took away from that was how the mind works, how it's sort of segmented and divided, specifically related to the belief system and like the gate that like triggers what's allowed to come in and what's not allowed to come in. That's what hypnosis is like completely all about. And I didn't realize that going into it. And I was like, holy crap. That really amped up my ability to control my belief system and like what I adopted and what I didn't. It's also a neat party trick. But is that something you guys would be interested in?
I would, because my story about being hypnotized. So that would interest me, because I tell this story to everybody. Since we're on recording, I'll go ahead and tell it anyways. There was a woman I know that tried to hypnotize me, and I told her there's no way you can hypnotize me at all, period. And I kept making fun of her, and I still make fun of her every time I go over to wash her car. I make fun of her. So
that she wasn't able to put you under.
Well, that's that. Oh, you can't hypnotize me, but I tell her that every time I go over to wash her car. So it's kind of like
okay, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that does interest me. So does past life regression. And Lori has mentioned that she's helpful there. Past life regression is something that I've been really interested in. So
yeah. So once I've only done this with like 2 or 3 other people, but once you learn how hypnosis works and in induction, I have some scripts that I've developed that specifically give you tools like that are introduced under hypnotic states, so that like they immediately go into your belief system, and like you can just start working with them. And one of them is like a spirit radio that lets you control how you hear and give you some sort of mechanism to like tune into a place or a spirit or turn them on, turn them off, that sort of stuff. I've got a bunch of scripts that deal with that sort of thing. That's super duper useful, especially when you're like working with new people and trying to wake them up. Like that's like throwing jet fuel on the situation. There's no attention to what's going on. I'm trying to add Lori. She's already invited to the call. Hold on just a second.
Yeah, I see 3 or 4 in the call.
Yeah. But it's just the 3 of us. It's just...
Yeah, no, but she got added to the room. She's saying she can't get in. Which is a shame. Her dinosaur jammies were on point. So hypnosis and specifically studying trance and what that's about, was really influential. Like I feel like in a lot of my practice, and I would love for you guys to work through that.
Yeah, no, I'd be cool to walk through that. I actually have a little bit of training, especially in like putting yourself into trance state. It's something that my dad actually taught us whenever we were younger, to help us with our gymnastics. It was,
really?
Yeah. So, it was also to help us, with some of this other, like the issues that I was having with, school, especially my dyslexia, being able to figure out how to like manipulate that better.
Yeah, isn't that amazing how that works?
Yeah, no, I started figuring out how to use that technique, with regards to spirit stuff when I started realizing the similarities whenever I would move into the state naturally, like in like a heightened environment or with like more experienced medium there, just through my like empathic bond reaching that level. I realized, oh hey, I know this place. I know the way to get here. So yeah, one of the cool things I noticed too is that whenever you like do competitions in gymnastics and stuff, especially for me specifically, whenever I was younger, I noticed that if you're like really in the zone with it, like when you go into competition and you're right in the right state, you automatically put yourself into a state of body trance where you can like feel the component pieces of your body more easily, and you kind of sort of exist outside the shell instead of being like going further into like the like Bill was saying, the theater of the mind, like stepping back. It's actually like stepping forward slightly more. You can feel the air, like the area around yourself, like your full aura stronger, and it helps you focus to do what you're trying to do in this competition, to control your body as you're doing this routine or whatever for gymnastics. I started noticing that is also a form of like trance state that you can do, and it also like even like moves into like music. If you're performing pieces of music and you start falling into that trance state too with it, and music is just crazy for just being like, and you're in the state.
That's how I get when I'm on stage. So
yeah, no, like it's almost a disassociation. Like you just like become part of the music.
It's a disconnect. Yeah.
So what was the trigger that you guys used when y'all were going to do a routine that got you into state?
Usually for that, like it was, you're always going to have like a heightened level of adrenaline as you go into something like that. So focusing on the increased level of heartbeat that you have as like the focus to get into that state easier. And then it was literal the physical trigger were a deep breath in as you raise your arms to start your first run for like, this is like for doing a floor competition.
Okay, yeah. that'd be a great trigger. I could totally see that putting you in this state. So like focusing on your heartbeat, like shifting your attention inward
Mm-hmm.
into
Yep.
what's
And
going
then
on.
yep. And then by the time you swing your arms down and go to start the first like step, you're like already in like that weird like outer shell of yourself level.
Like almost like disassociation.
Sort of,
Really?
yeah. You're outside of yourself, but like not really, really far outside yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed remote viewing and feeling disassociated kind of come hand in hand. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's almost like one versus the other. You guys didn't. I'm going through some of the other um recommended videos. I got to update some of this stuff, man. But did either one of you guys get a chance to look at the Quantum Activist or no, it wasn't the Quantum Activist. That was actually pretty good. But I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Dr. Quantum and Flatland.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You got to remember when I went through this, it was 10, 11 years ago. A lot of that stuff we didn't have. You know, we had Help Haunted, we had How to Hunt Ghosts, we had Black Hope Horror, we had
Yeah, no, we hadn't even got to Black Hope Horror yet. That's a whole other different discussion.
Yeah, but the reading material that we had, the material that we had was not as in depth. The list we had wasn't as big as the list you have now. So
Yeah, no, we add to it all the time for sure. But you, Bill, I know in particular, you read Protected by the Light, right? Like
yes,
that.
in fact, my copy is actually autographed. So
That is such a great book, right?
it's an awesome book. It's an awesome book. And every client that calls me or that gets referred to me, when it's help, I think there's something going on in my house, or help, I get this feeling, or it's the first thing I do. The first thing I do is I tell them, look, go download this book on Amazon, or order.
Right.
Download, read through it, and then when you're done reading through it, let me know, and then I will come out and we'll talk about it. So the first thing is that they need, first of all, we know the story. It's 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 that I go to help. There's nothing there. You can't tell them that. You just pretty much have to convince them that they can control their own space.
Right.
They can control their own space, and they can control their own space. And that book helps with that. That's why I said that. And then if they're still having a problem after they read that book, and I also give them a couple of prayers to use. If they're having a problem after that, then I'll go out and I'll work with them. So, but 7 out of 10 are good after that. The other two that are, so.
Did you guys? One of the other things that I took out of that book that I really liked was he was actually a therapist, and he was working with past life regression with people. So he's putting people under, and they were doing that sort of work. And he noticed like some people were genuinely like had additional spirits attached to them, right? And that's kind of how we developed that protocol. That's actually what triggered me to go back and start looking at hypnosis. So I went out and found a hypnosis course and was like, I'm gonna go study this. So like a lot of that stuff for me goes right back to like that book, like Protected by the Light is dope. It's still in print, right?
You can get it on Amazon. I don't know if it's still in print, because he's been dead for I don't know how long he's been dead, but I don't know if it's still in print, but you can get copies of it all over the place. So might be in print online. I don't know if it's physically in print. So
yeah, you can buy copies of it. I don't know if they're still making new copies of it, but you can definitely find them.
I just
Did
happened.
did
I paid extra for mine because it's autographed by him. So
man? Yeah, that's so cool. That's something to nerd out on. Did either one of you guys get a chance to read Healing Sick Houses, where they teach you how to make maps and work with maps?
yes, yes,
No.
Man,
So-
oh brother, I gotta send you a link to that. Like it'll change the way you work.
yeah. That's
Uh, he teaches his own voodoo kind of thing with maps.
Yeah.
He was a water witch, like he learned to be a water witch, and then he kind of developed from that into how to heal and diagnose energy patterns in people's houses and redirect the energies. And he used a map. You know how like we use a shield, a drawing to be a shield around somebody's house, where that's where that came from. Is he developed this technique of working with maps based on his dowsing stuff, and man, his work is really fascinating. I'll send you the book; like you'll devour it. It's crazy.
you can actually teach people if they're open minded enough and they're good concentration. You can actually teach people to see the energy between themselves and an object. I learned this. It's quite simple if you've got good concentration. It's really quite simple. But I learned this out of a workshop that I took. I forget the guy's name, but he taught us how to do that. And that's what I help people with that. You know, look, this is what you do. If you see a disturbance in there, call me. If you see something going through those pixels, then you've got something, you know, that's not wind, it's not a fan. Or move your hand through it, see if you can make it move. If you see something going through those pixels, that energy, then give me a call and I'll come, you know, read the book.
What about the Healer's Manual? Did you guys check out the Healer's Manual?
That I don't know about. No.
That's super old school. That's like way old school. He basically kind of teaches you visually how to work with colors and use colors as kind of a directed energy in your own headspace. But he's got some really good techniques and methodologies to do that. I think Lorion actually had been the one who threw that on my radar. It was really good.
Yeah, I think one of the times I went out with Lori one time, she specifically asked me about that, like what kind of colors was I seeing whenever I do like remote viewing or walkthroughs and stuff, and I was like, don't have programming for that, Batman.
Interesting that you call it programming too, right? Like, because in my brain, stuff like that is a learned skill, and it's so crazy that like that's why I like kind of working the way we work, where we team up with like an experienced person and a new person. Being in the presence of somebody who's using that skill makes it infinitely easier for you to learn that skill.
Would you like to pick up this new skill?
Yeah, it's crazy how that works though, right?
I've only been out with Rick one time.
Yeah.
That was a good one, actually. That was a really good one too. So
yeah.
Which I don't remember which.
That was Cantankerous.
It was what?
Cantankerous. So.
Yeah, they're. I think it was one of y'all's older clients that y'all had gone out and helped before. I got to come in this time, and they were having problems at their house, but then they were also having some problems at their business too.
Oh, they had the like little playroom for kids business, right? Party room. Yeah, they've always had some crazy stuff going on over there.
Yeah,
I was able to nail down the male that was in the was it the daughter's room, Reese, or the I think it was the daughter's room. So they were down, but yeah, that was a good one. I've been up.
I can't remember honestly.
10 or 12 times.
Yeah, their little boy, the youngest, is so wide open, like, and they have so many people going in and out of that business they've got going on with the all the kids and the party stuff and that going on. Like, I feel like they can't help but bring something home occasionally. Like, it's just going to pick up on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, okay, so speaking of cases, like one of the big cases that we study is like in my brain, it's the worst case scenario, right? Like the Black Hope horror. Uh, I know the book is out of print, and we've got some electronic copies we can share, but you can still buy copies out there. I've got 2 or 3 of them. So, like, Reese, what was your thought process? What was your experience as you were reading that story for the first time?
It's insane, just straight up, absolutely insane. Negligence on the everybody, because oh my god, like, no. But like for me, honestly, it highlights the need for like a group like we work with that goes out and offers help for people. Not like we don't really deal with a situation like this, like the Black Hope horror level, like on a day-to-day basis, but like the necessity for a group like ours is there for reasons like this. Like
Right.
it hashtag calling for us, yo.
Or some serious church intervention. But like in my experience, most of them don't really know how to handle situations like this. Sadly,
No.
you know what I mean?
No.
Did either of you guys watch the movie adaptation for that? That they did for Black Hope Horror?
Yeah, I think I
It,
did years ago. I think I did.
I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, I think I did.
uh,
At that time, you were asking the newbies to watch it. So
yeah, it's like an old. I'm trying to remember the name of the actress. It's like an old actress who used to be super popular back in the day. She did a horror movie, and it was the story of this. I don't think it's Graves End. I think that's a different book. I'm looking at our reading list, but there's there's a movie version of that, and they do a really good job of kind of explaining what's going on. But like what I like about that story in particular is you see a manifestation of just about everything that could possibly go wrong in
mhm.
in any scenario. This checks all of the boxes.
I the reading the book, my secondary thought was like, have none of you read a horror movie, like watched a horror movie or anything? Because like all the bad things happened. Like, and like my question is, what does it take to be like, that's weird, I'm gonna go about my day. Do.
I have had the dubious distinction of being in that house.
Yeah. That we were talking about that story actually in the last episode with the Kelta. We were telling her about it, but like, man, you should definitely tell that story because Lori got you good. She got you good. So
she
like,
wanted to test my remote viewing skills, and she gave me the picture of a house. Didn't look anything like the Black Hope horror house. And she told me, go ahead. I the outside of the house, tell her what I saw. I told her what I saw. I told her I felt there was something under the tree. I think I told her there might have been a burial ground under the tree somewhere around there, and I told her a few other things, and I told her I'm going in. She said, "Okay, go in." I went in, and the minute I went in, I was met immediately by a stocky gentleman. I I always equate him to somebody who kind of looked like Dick Cheney. I don't know why that's stuck in my mind, but the stocky gentleman, and he pushed me around and pushed me around and pushed me around, and I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. I went through that whole house and I got the crap beat out of me. Every room I went into, I got pushed, shoved, or slapped, to the point to where and you know how I'm reckless anyways. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to keep going. By the time I got out, I decided to get out of there. I had the crap literally beaten out of me by everything. And I got out, and Lori said, how'd it go? And I said, just got the crap beat out of me. What the hell did you do to me? She told me where she sent me, and I didn't even I wasn't even pissed. I started cracking up. I laughed so hard. It was a nice trick.
You got to break out some protected by the light techniques when you go into a place like that, for sure.
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, you actually really do. And ever since then, I have what I call a griffin, a big giant griffin. Anytime, even if I do a remote view or I go into somebody's house, I have a big griffin that I take with me over my shoulder everywhere I go. I haven't had that kind of problem since then. I mean, I've run into some tough ones, but I've never. I got to put my power cord in here. I've never been pushed around or anything like that.
Yeah, it's good to have contingencies in place for sure.
Yeah, you got to have some kind of protection and.
For those of you who don't know, the Black Hope Horror is a story of a true haunting in Crosby, Texas, just north, northeast of Houston. It's this little subdivision they built out there. That land used to be a plantation, and on the plantation there was a cemetery for the black slaves who lived there, and they called it the Black Hope Cemetery. Well, later as the land for the plantation got sold, they moved the cemetery, but they just moved the headstones and left the bodies. It's literally the story that was like the inspiration for the Poltergeist movies. And so this company came in and literally built a cul-de-sac over the Black Hope Cemetery, and not goodness ensues, like spirit haunting, demons, people getting cancer, kittens being born inside out. What was that about?
But not even just cancer. Like, everybody got cancer in a 6-month period, and it was all hereditary cancer and not from radiation of any kind.
And then what was it? The guy kept hallucinating about the spot in the ceiling. He would go in there and stare at it for hours. Like that sort of psychosis was rampant.
Yeah. My favorite part was the bird cage, where they had birds, and it was like suspended bird cage, and it was completely full of ants and dead bird. And they were like, oh, this is normal. And I was like, where did the ants come from?
They should have pulled in a priest or something. Like, I don't think they ever did, actually.
No, they didn't. They all just died.
No. Yeah, they all went crazy and got run off.
No, they didn't get run off. Like, people kept dying, and then finally the mom was like, I'm going to go take care of it. And then, went to dig under the tree, and then either she died or one of the kids died on the spot, and it was like, we don't live here anymore.
Her daughter died on the spot the moment she decided she was going to start digging up the tree. Yeah, I remember that, right?
Yeah.
Her daughter, who was sick anyway. Yeah, man.
Crazy
But ghosts
stuff.
can't hurt you, right?
I would venture to say there's a lot of plantation homes in that part of Texas. There's a lot of them down in Angleton too. There's a lot of old plantation homes.
I wish Suzanne was on.
Who?
I wish Suzanne was on for that comment. Like, out where Suzanne used to live, whenever you would drive back into the subdivision that she was in, it was like
Yeah,
It was like
that had to
driving
be
through a parade.
it had to be plantation land back there, right? Like that
Yeah.
that's all I saw, like out of my peripheral vision as you would drive to her house, would be like person after person after person after person, just like kind of standing in the field.
But it was always like standing in the field and then like, hey, what's going on there as you drive by?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder what was going on back there, or back in the day
I
in
took a
that land.
I took a case at a plantation in Angleton. I freed about 15 slaves. It was amazing. Amazing. It was that's a long story, but it was amazing.
That's one of my favorite things to do in situations where, like, there's some pent up spirits who need to go somewhere and don't need to be hanging out for one reason or the other, is to be able to help those guys. Like, that means a lot to me.
Yeah,
for sure. Did either of you guys read or watch the video for Conjuring Up Philip?
I did years ago. Don't ask me to remember any of it, but like I said, it was 10, 11 years
But
ago.
that was a really good study. So that was where they got all these volunteers in Canada to, like, do this seance situation, and they made up a spirit and like gave him a history and a background, and they were able to manifest him as an entity. Like, he was throwing the table around and, like, levitating it and, like, knocking and answering them back, and, like, all that got recorded on video, but it was just them manifesting it as themselves. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, when I first saw that material, I was like, this is the best example of a self-haunting you could ever try and show somebody. So, like, that was the reason I put that in the material, is like they literally made up their own ghosts, right? And it was like one of the most active on video anyway phenomenon than, like, I've ever seen. It was crazy. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times whenever people are experiencing stuff, that's what it is. It's just PK stuff that they're doing, because they're doing to scare themselves, which makes it worse, which is a weird little paradox loop that just happens and gets worse and worse until it blows up.
Yeah, a lot of people just freak themselves out, and or if they've got some, I can think of a couple of cases in particular where it wasn't as much any spiritual activity that was going on as much as the person's own mental state, and their own issues. What about, this is a new edition we just put on the list, what about the telepathy tapes? Have you guys had a chance to look into that yet?
I haven't yet, no.
Bill, have you been able to digest any of that?
No, I have not.
Man, y'all got to check it out. So here's the premise. You've got these kids that are all non-link. I forget the term. They don't speak, and they're on autism. They're on autism. They are on the scale nonverbal. That was the word I was looking for. And this documentary maker studies this phenomenon, or has been telling the story of this phenomenon of these kids who they've been able to show they have profound telepathic abilities. Like, they can literally read their teachers' minds, and, like, even go so far as to, like, dig into their memories and see and experience what was going on, like when they're not even actively thinking about it. And it looks in my brain, it's because these kids are locked in. You know what I mean? But they found methods to communicate with them, and what they share through their communication proves that like they're all profoundly telepathic. It's crazy. So it's like eight little 1 hour episodes for this researcher who's talking about tests she did with these kids to prove what's going on, and like to try and prove to herself that if there's some shenanigans going on, and then she starts talking to these people and getting their stories.
Isn't for an example, and this is a question I'm going to ask you. I've had the occasion to work with 4 attachments, fight off 4 attachments for people, and I don't speak to them. I speak to them from here, and they speak back to me. Isn't that kind of a form of telepathy? How do you want
No, that is exactly what that is. That's exactly what that is.
I don't talk. It didn't dawn on me till you just mentioned it. So
yeah, no, that's exactly what that is. I think the crazy thing about it is like the clarity and the accuracy these kids are able to get on these objective double-blind tests that this lady is doing is like 100%. Like not like 60, not like 30 would be significant, right? If they were able to get 30% on like flashcard tests, but these kids are getting like 100%. It's absolutely crazy.
it is.
And then once they validate that, they just start digging in the rabbit hole. But like I could not do a flashcard test. I talk to spirits all the time because that's the language they use, and that's the communication format they use. But I could not do the flashcard test. They had such crystal clear clarity to be able to basically look through their mom's eyes that they could immediately tell them, and they were answering almost faster than they could switch images, switch cards. It was crazy. It's definitely worth checking out.
Getting to that as different mediums receive their communication differently. I mean, I get pictures and whispers, pictures and whispers, pictures and whispers. I'll get a T and an H like that, and I'll have to determine what name they're giving me. Or a lot of people get full names, full conversations. I get pictures and I get whispers. It's funny if people are going to listen to this they ask me, well, what did you say? What do you get? What do you get? Well, this is what I get. They give me pictures and whispers. That's how they communicate with me. They might communicate with Reese differently. They might have full conversations with you, James. I know Lori has full conversations, but each medium doesn't receive their communications the exact same way. And somebody who doesn't know assumes that we all get the exact same thing. We don't.
Why don't you have the lottery numbers? Yeah, it always comes down to that. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah, it always comes down to that. But people don't really realize that we're all different. We all receive our messages differently. I think that's something that anybody new coming in should actually realize. You're not going to hear or see or feel the same things that we feel. Eventually you're going to get them they're going to give them to you the way they know you can receive them. I think they figure you out before you figure them out. That's what
yeah, they definitely got better clarity than we do for the most part, for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, you got to think about it. Like for us, it's like we're hardwired to see reality the way that most humans see reality. So whenever you go to look through that other space, it's like looking through water with our current eyes. Like you can still make it
yeah,
out, but depending on what's going on with the water, you don't know. It's not always going to be crystal clear or super obvious.
and you
Um,
got so much of your own bullshit like overlaid on top of the message in to such degree. I like to use the phrase "through a glass darkly." Uh, like everybody sees different. Everybody sees like through a glass darkly, right? What about did you guys read any of Carlos Castaneda's stuff, like the Teachings of Don Juan or any of that?
Yes. I've been through half of what was the first one you did? I can't remember.
Teachings of Don Juan, I think, was the first one.
yeah,
Through half Don Juan. I've been through half of Don Juan. Yeah.
I finished the first Don Juan book.
You went through the
Yeah.
whole thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got through half of Don Juan. So
Yeah, there were so many concepts in there that I found really valuable, and still used like in everyday practice.
Just his description of some of like trips that he took during that, like just like the descriptions of things, it's like, oh wow, that's brilliant and beautiful.
Yeah, no, I actually found it really, really valuable for sure. Uh, it really kind of was one of my first introductions to like how to think like a shaman and think like somebody who interacts with the spirit world in a different way and thinks of themselves and their role in all of that in a different way. Like I like how he framed all of that. It was really influential, I guess would be the word for me. Reese, did you read any of the Iron Druid Chronicles?
I think I read the first graphic novel. I don't think I got all the way. I don't think I read through like a whole one of the
Okay.
books. So.
Yeah, I don't think I've thrown this on your radar, Bill, but like I got to throw this out to you, you guys. So this is the story. It's a great series of like fantasy books, but the guy who wrote the books, I'm convinced, is a wicked level shaman and possibly an ancient druid in his own right, and he's very metally writing a story about him being an ancient druid from the old times, like surviving in the modern day, and like all the gods and all the demons and all of Irish mythology and all of that is like 100%, 1000% real, and he can like planes walk and interact with these spirits and all that sort of stuff. But it's all about like the shenanigans he gets into. But it talks about him operating as a druid, and they use this beautiful description of energy work and like tying energy into knots and being able to program it. And they describe it in such a way that clearly the guy who does it is proficient in doing this, and he's basically teaching you how to do energy work while you're reading the book, especially like how he does wards. He I don't really kind of don't want to spoil it for you because you should read it in context, but it's brilliant. It's the Iron Druid Chronicles. Like, I love them. We gotta throw that on y'all's radar. I'm looking at some of the other stuff. We don't really have any material specifically for remote viewing that I think we were.
Lori was going to write a course on that.
Yeah.
Most of our stuff has been Lori.
Has been Lori. Yeah, it's time with Lori and working with Lori, and learning to do the photo reading as a group. I feel like that's been really beneficial and helpful. but like there's not really any reading material
I do more
or
remote view.
any
Really?
videos or anything like that. Yeah, that we throw people through. Is there anything that you guys like have read that you think we should put on the list? Like, there's so much stuff that I've studied over a lifetime of being bored and looking for something to read.
You didn't bring up your book, which actually I've referred a few people to your Help I'm Haunted book.
Oh yeah, no, that's in the thing for sure. But like, I don't feel like that wasn't transformative for you guys, because like
No.
you got to work with us in the group and work cases and stuff, right?
Yeah,
But
I do a lot of independent studying online, and I run into things and I'll write it down, and I've probably got a notebook somewhere around here in the studio that's full of URLs that I would have to go through, remember. But yeah, I when I find something that's really interesting, I'll write the URL down. I'll go through and see what I can find.
do you guys do audiobooks? Do y'all listen to? That's my thing. If I can get it as an audiobook, I'm going to do it as an audiobook.
I'd rather read, to be honest with you. I know that sounds.
I consume material faster written than audio. Audio has a tendency to be. I'm like, okay, all right, come on.
Okay, well, there's a great adaptation of the Iron Druid Chronicles that Luke Daniels narrates. I was going to throw you guys a link over to that, but yeah, I'll see if I can look up the link to the paper version of the Iron Druid Chronicles. It's a really good, entertaining read, but you guys will immediately see the value for what it is as he starts working with stuff. So
there's another fantasy series. Just because the way the magic system functions, it's a good like concept for creating your mental image of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish before like setting it into motion. Is the Belgariad and the Malorian? They're by a writer named David Eddings.
David Eddings is great, man. I read him as a kid in high school. The Belgrade in particular was really good.
You know what's funny? Like, he's written several series. Admittedly, they're all the same story, but with different characters. Like, every time he's like, I have a story I can tell, but here are the new characters for it.
Yeah.
Have either of you read any Tom Brooks?
I've heard of Tom Brooks, but I don't think I've read any of his stuff. What did he write what's he known for?
Pretty much does the same thing.
Okay. I'll have to look him up. There was a lot of stuff in Dune that I found really valuable too, for sure. And Stranger in a Strange Land, like that's been a Bible for me for a while, particularly like the second half of the book where he's talking about like how to reference and reframe reality and think about internal spaces and operating spaces. I feel like Stranger in a Strange Land was really, really badass. Man, and Healing Sick Houses, you haven't read that, Reese. I got to throw that on your radar. That is so good. That is so good. It's like it's voodoo on maps. It's voodoo on maps. Okay.
There's probably techniques that I picked up that you do from it now.
Oh yeah, no. That little warding, shielding thing that I do with clients with paper, you'll be like, this is exactly where he stole this from. It's his techniques. But he does a lot of other stuff like with radionics and energy work that like I've never had occasion to roll into or to really dig into. And he's got this trick where he uses different colored tapes to represent different types of work, and it's really interesting. And it's a lot of it is like also his theory about how all this stuff works, which I found to be very, very enlightening. So, yeah, I got to look up. I have studied a lot of stuff on like the formal remote viewing techniques, like that Ed Dames put together, but I can't think of any reference material that, like, off the top of my head, that was like, this is the thing you gotta study. So I gotta think about that a little bit.
Reese, have you ever been out with Tony Barton?
I've actually been out to Tony Barton's house.
You ever been out on a case with him before?
No. I've heard of the story of the 10-ton gorilla.
He's
But
awesome.
I've never actually had the chance to like work with him.
I've been on a few.
He was one of the first brave recipients of my hypnosis psychic potential training, controllable glasses, and terminal interface. That was back when I was studying hypnosis really hard. Man, that stuff is really good. I'm excited for you guys to really dig into that. Yeah, Tony's great. He got busy with family stuff. Like him and his wife adopted a kid, and they've just been focused on that. Great little kid. We went out there actually last year? He was having some sort of issue.
The year before. It's been in the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah.
Time be flowing.
For sure. Man, I'm super digging this. I think I sent you guys a picture. This rosary. I redid the whole thing with like that's really big honking amethyst beads. It just weighs like fucking 4 pounds now for a rosary, but I made it big enough to go over my honking head. So
I picked this up in the Philippines.
Oh, what is that? Yeah, throw it up to the camera. Oh, is that citrine? That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I use it to dowse now. With my plate, I've got my plate with letters and the numbers on it and stuff. It's really reactive. I really like it. I've got a knot in it. I got to get the knot out of it now, but it's really reactive. Unbelievably.
Yeah, that's
reactive.
gorgeous. That's gorgeous.
Thanks.
Yeah, I always loved big, beefy stonework, and I've been really into prayer beads lately. So I saw this super cheap crucifix actually with a rosary, but it had the Saint Benedict's cross on it, which I'm super into lately. The one they use for exorcisms in the Catholic rite. So I was like, oh, I got to grab that thing, and then put 4 pounds of amethyst on it. But yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thanks.
Okay, I think maybe we'll wrap it up here. I'm going to dig some links up and send them over to you guys. I'm super excited about y'all checking out.
Yeah, I'll dig that I've written down over the last few years on self-studying stuff. I'll dig some of them out. So
yeah, throw the links over for sure. Suzanne sent this book over called "I Am the Voice" or "I Am the Way." That was really good too, and we might throw that on the list too.
You still around?
Yeah, no, I was going to try to get her into the call tonight, but she's been busy. She's doing good. She was just telling me about some stuff going on with Hunter. Yeah, she just moved out of the area, so and I feel like she got busy with a new life up there, so we haven't pulled her in on casework lately.
Cool.
So, but man, this was fun. I want us to be able to sit down on a little more regular basis and get Lori in here. Like,
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, she's got so many stories and stuff she's done and people she's talked to and places she's been. We got to start dragging that stuff out of her.
I'd like to. That would be kind of cool. Is once in a while everybody pull out their most intriguing or their most difficult case, and share it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The group. I think it would be kind of cool. So
That would be dope. That would be dope. All right, gentlemen. Thanks for your time and brain cells.
that's fun.
I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of us talking about this material and what we got out of it for sure. So, all right, later, guys.
Bye.
Take care. See you guys.
Millions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to